Hello everybody, it's Kevin Kubota with Post Pro episode 6 coming your way right now. We're going to do some little more extensive retouching and some creative enhancements to a portrait here, a very typical senior portrait that you might do every day. So let's get busy. Okay, here's an image that's a pretty typical senior portrait. Yours are probably much better than mine, but this is a nice little cool prop, red old 50s pickup truck. We got this old warehouse location we shot this at. A little bit on the lighting here, just for kicks and giggles. You can tell by the catch lights in her eyes, there's a main light source, which is an octabank, small octagon shaped light box right up and to the side, kind of 45 degrees, lighting up her face. We also put a little silver white reflector in the front underneath her eyes to throw a little light back into her eyes. And this beautiful light on her hair is another flash, of course, off in the distance here, casting this cool Hollywood hair light, as well as lighting up the truck and casting the reflections on the back of the truck. So it really was 2 powered lights and 1 reflector to create this portrait on location in a warehouse. Shot with a long enough lens to blur out the background and gives me room to play with it in Photoshop and do some other little tweaky things to it. So let's get busy, shall we? So I'm in Lightroom with this image. I've already done the color corrections. I've actually done a little color tweaking to it by putting on some of my presets in Lightroom to this image. But I still need to do the retouching, things I can't really do in Lightroom. So I'm going to take this now into Photoshop. So remember our shortcut from last week? Command or Control E to open your image from Lightroom, pass it into Photoshop, and now it's open in Photoshop, ready for me to work on it. So I'll zoom in close, and the first thing you want to do when you're working on a portrait or any image really is to work on the corrective things first. So cloning, if you need to fix perspective, if you need to remove objects, add objects, take a mother-in-law out of the picture, which is very common in my case. And any of those corrective things, do those first. Then you're going to work on the other things. So you want to do the big major things and then work your way down. Color corrections, which we've kind of already done in Lightroom, so I don't do much color correction in Photoshop anymore. It's really just the hardcore constructive, reconstructive, fixy things and the artistic things. So a couple of problems I see. One, there's a couple little highlights. There's one little highlight on her cheek there and a couple little spots on her nose and a little red spot under her nose, which I could take away. Okay, those little highlights are from the light coming through her hair, and they're not bad, but they're just a little distracting. I want them smoother, so I'm going to create a layer, new blank layer on my layers palette, and retouch on that layer. This gives me the ability to fade it, tweak on it, double check it just right, and then I can flatten it down if I want to. But I usually retouch on a separate layer just for the sake of having that flexibility. So zoom in, grab my healing brush. And when you're doing this, make sure you choose from this menu above here, current and below or all layers, to make sure that when you're healing onto a blank layer, it actually samples from all the layers, not the blank layer. Otherwise, you're going to get nothing because it's going to be healing blank from blank. So all layers. Now I can take my healing brush, make sure the mode is normal. Another little tip here on your healing brush is to set the brush to its hardest edge setting, okay? Kick the hardness all the way up instead of soft. Now, if you've been using Photoshop for a while, you probably used the clone tool before, and the clone tool works best when the edge is soft. It's the opposite. The healing brush actually works better with a hard edge because you get more predictable healing. It doesn't sample into unknown areas quite as much. So hard edge. And we'll go down here, size our brush to where we need it to be, and I'm going to sample some of the good skin from there on her nose and just patch over those little highlights. Same for the highlight on her cheek right here. I'll make a little larger sample area that's going to cover that highlight right there. Sample the good skin here and drag it right over that highlight to remove it. While I'm at it, why don't I just dab away some of the other little slight imperfections. Kind of even out her skin. And I'm actually going to go down here now and take some off the tip of her nose that I can apply to this little red spot under her nose there. Okay, smaller brush gives me a little tighter control, and there we go. We've taken away the spots. There's before and after. And I'm happy with the results, so now I will flatten. And I have a little shortcut set up, but you can always go to right click and go flatten layers. And then I'm going to add one more retouching layer, and this one's going to be for the lines under the eyes. So I'm going to show you the way I work on the lines under the eyes. It makes it look very natural. One of the things that we have to do is make that separate layer, and I'm going to paint them away and then fade that layer back so that it blends. So I'm not going to take away all the character lines. You don't want to have a characterless person here, but I'm going to minimize them. So again, I size my brush just about the size of the line I want to reduce, which is this line here. Okay, size the brush there, and then I'm going to position my brush so that when I paint, it will follow me into good skin and remain in good skin, and that's kind of the key. So Option or Alt click here, and then I can take my brush up here, drag it along, and get rid of that line. Okay, so by Option clicking there in the good skin and giving myself room to drag, it samples the entire way one smooth line. Same on this side, I'll Option click here on the good skin, anticipating that I'm going to drag along this line. Okay, to get rid of it, Option click here, knowing that I would drag along this line, just like that. And now we've smoothed out her under eyes. I almost said underarms. I'm such a goober. All right, now I want to fade it back. So I take my opacity slider, and you'll notice here, from 100%, as I go down, I can bring back those lines to any point in between. So the way to keep this natural is, generally with women, between 60 and 80% opacity works really well, that we can see a little bit of that line, but not enough that it makes it look old, okay? With guys, I'm usually at about 50% opacity, because you want to keep more of the lines with guys, because they get more sensitive about me, look too femme and perfect. Although I'm really not opposed to looking perfect, but just only happens in Photoshop, unfortunately. So anyway, we faded her back 70%. Her lines are now minimized, not totally taken away. There's the before and the after. I'm happy with that. I notice now a little dark line on her nose. It's probably a giggle line when she goes ee, like that. So I'm gonna take that one down too. And just zip, zip, zap, zap, zap. Zap any little things. Anything else you see? I'm pretty happy with that. That's good. So let's just flatten that out. Now she's clean and smooth. Now under the enhancing. Okay, we did this last week around the eyes. I'm going to create that levels adjustment layer and put the levels layer into multiply mode. Okay, invert the layer mask. Double click to the right and separate the sliders. So I'm going to move the right hand slider on this layer over to the middle. Hold your Option or Alt key down if you're on a PC. Separate the sliders and move the left half of it down halfway again. So now I've got something looking like this on your screen. All right, that has focused my adjustment into only the dark areas. Now I'll take my brush with white at 100% opacity, paint on the layer mask itself, so select the mask, highlight it. All right, take your paintbrush, make it a little smaller, and now paint along her eyelashes. Now remember, if it's too strong, we can fade it, and that's the whole point. Paint it strong to begin with, and then just fade it down to where it looks natural. So there's before and after. Before and after. Now if you remember last week I was talking about the dark line around the iris that's common to most people. She's got a very, very distinguished dark line around her iris, and most people do have that. And in that case, I will size my brush down to the width of the natural dark line, and I just follow it. One stroke there, one stroke there. Same on the other eye. One swipe there, one swipe there. So all I'm doing is darkening what's already there, and that's the beauty of this special layer, is that it darkens what's already dark, just like eyeliner would, without affecting the brighter parts of the image. Now I'm gonna do one more thing. I want to make her eyes the just cool color in eyes, kind of a greeny color, but they're kind of getting washed out here. So I'm gonna make a layer that's hue saturation. All right, And I'm gonna saturate. Oh my God, it looks crazy. Stop, stop, stop. Don't worry about it. It looks crazy, but her eyes are the only thing that I'm paying attention to right now. And on that layer mask, I'll invert, Command or Control I, to block it. Remember, black blocks, white reveals. And then I can take a paintbrush with white, just like I did before, and paint exactly where I want that saturation to go. So right here, I can now paint, woohoo, right there onto her eyes. Okay, bring out the color that's already there. And again, it's too strong, that's okay. That's why we did it on a layer. It gives me total flexibility to then fade it now to about 50 or 60%. So I have a little more punch to the color, but not over the top. There we go. I'll set it about 59.26%. Her eyes are looking nice. The eyeliner looks nice. I'm gonna soften her skin with my Dollface from the dashboard. We used this one last week as well. And I'll show you how you can create one actually yourself in just a second, as soon as this runs. Dollface is nice because you can paint the softening. It's very natural looking. And really all you need to do is create a copy of the image and blur it. You can use any of the blur tools. I use surface blur. You can use Gaussian blur. You can use a noise reduction, anything that blurs detail. And then put a layer mask on it, just like I've done here. Okay, so let me expose this for you with Dollface. I've got two soft copies of the image, both at 50%, blended in a certain proprietary formula. And then I put them into a folder and I put a mask on it and black, so I block it. Then again, just like we did before, I'll take my brush and I will paint over areas that I want to reveal the softening. So I'm just going over anything that's a little blotchy looking. She doesn't really have porous skin. There's some little blotchy spots. And we'll just do a little special treatment for her because she's a nice girl. Soften up the skin a little bit and she's good. Okay, there we go. Dollface. Takes the shine off. More like putting powder on her face. All right, so she's looking pretty good. The light's looking pretty good. Her skin's retouched beautifully. We have the spots. Her eyes are popping. One more thing I want to do to make this image a little more artsy-fartsy is I want to pretend I had a tilt-shift lens and fade out the bottom. Make it kind of go out of focus to in focus. The bottom of the image, where her shirt is, and the bottom of the truck is really not that interesting. It's kind of distracting. So what I really want to do is focus on her face, blur that out. So pretend we had a tilt-shift lens or an f2 lens here and blur that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a separate layer that's a copy of all the other layers. So first thing I'll do is make a blank layer right there, okay? And hold down the Option key and do Merge Visible. Option on your keyboard if you're a Mac, Alt on a PC, Merge Visible. What that does, it takes a copy of the entire image, all the layers and everything, takes a snapshot and puts it all on that layer while preserving everything below that layer. So this is just a copy of what's below. Now I can mess up this layer, do whatever I want to it, and it won't affect all the other stuff below. And then I can fade it into the original as well. So on this layer here, I'm going to go to my filter menu, blur, and use Gaussian blur. You can also use lens blur if you prefer. Lens blur works nice sometimes when you have little specular highlights. In this case, I don't really. So Gaussian blur will be just fine. I'll blur the image a little more than I want it. So what I'm doing is I'm imagining from here up, I'm going to blur and then go to clean. And from here up is where I want it to go. And I'm going to blur a little more than the maximum that I want to see. Again, because I'm going to fade it. All right, so there it's blurred. Now I put a layer mask on this baby. Layer mask is this little icon right down here, little circle. And invert the mask to black. That blocks the blur. Now I'm going to grab my gradient tool right here on the left of my toolbar. And with the gradient tool, I'm going to select linear gradient here and make sure that my gradient, if I click in this gradient, is the third preset, black to white. Black to white. Because on a layer mask, what does black do? Relax. White do? Reveals. So I'm going to gradually block to reveal. So I'm going to go black to white. So I'm going to block the clean image at the bottom, fade it into the top. So I'll start here at the bottom, click, hold, and drag. Whoop. Let me back that up. I went the wrong way. Start at the top of the image here, click, hold, and drag down to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to hit a gradual sharp to out of focus at the bottom of the image. So if you didn't do it right, or if you want it to be a quicker blur, you just start again, start right here and draw a shorter line, and that'll make a quicker transition in the blur. If you want it to be more gradual, drag it again, but drag a longer line, and now we have a slower, more gradual transition to out of focus. All right, so play with that as much as you want. Each time you drag, it actually redraws that same blur. So you can redo it as many times as you want until you get it just the way you like it. And I'll stop it right about there. And if I option click on my layer mask, you can actually see what we did. We made a gradient from black to white, blocking and revealing that blurry image below. And there we have it. We've got our image set. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me, Kevin, on Post Pro. And next week, we're going to work on more cool, groovy stuff in Photoshop. And we're going to add some texture to our images. I'm going to show you some neat tricks for adding textures. And maybe we'll get to some borders as well. And this is one of the images we're going to work on next week. It's a bridal trash the dress session in a beautiful spa here from a secret spot, which I might reveal to you if you're nice. And if you tune in next week to Post Pro, see ya.